Welcome, students. Welcome to the first lesson of Political Science, Standard 10th. The topic is Working of the Constitution. Now, my dear students, we have learned in the 7th standard on what circumstances the Constitution was formed. Now, why the Constitution was formed and what are the rights and duties given to us or given to the leaders who are ruling over us, given to the government. And also, we have seen in the 8th standard that what is the role of the president, what is the role of the prime minister, what are their duties. Now, my dear students, here we are going to see the working of the Constitution. Now, when I say working of the Constitution, the first thing comes to my mind, we need to know that we got independence on 15th August 1947 and our Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. Since then, the government has been working in accordance with the principles of the Constitution. Now, when I speak about Constitution or the working of the Constitution, primarily we are going to focus on three aspects. One, democracy. Second one, social justice. Third one, judicial system. Now, in the lower classes, we have learned what is democracy. And the famous definition of Abraham Lincoln. We all know what is democracy. The main focus is on the people. The people is the main hero. They decide what type of the government they require, which leader they want to select, or which party has to come into power. And all this are in the hands of the people. So in democracy, the first subtopic I'm going to deal here is political maturity. Democracy does not merely imply representative structure, but the essence of representative system is to integrate the principles of democracy into actual practice. Now, once this is done, democracy becomes an integral part of the political life of society. Accordingly, then Indian people have a direct representation in the parliament, state legislature, or local self-government. Now, how does the people get the power of direct representation in the parliament or the state legislature or the local self-government? Through election. The elections are held after every 5 years and the regular interval. This is the most important indicator of India's successful democracy. So, either the people, by participating in the political affairs by giving vote or standing as a candidate, either of the two, either of the one, they are involved in it. So, it's very simple. When I say political maturity, I mean to say here is the regular free and fair election which is held at the regular interval, and that is the great indicator of a successful democracy in India. Now, my dear students, we will see the next thing where again this right is given to the people, that is, right to vote. Now, when I speak right to vote, during the pre British period, when the Britishers were there, the right to vote was not given to everyone. It was given to those people who were supporting the Britishers, who were rich, the elite class, those who were very rich, those who belonged to a particular caste, you know, this kind of conditions were laid and they were given to vote. But after the independence, in the post independence period, what has happened? Very simple. The constitution has laid that rule saying that those who have achieved 21 years of age, or those who have attained 21 years of age, whether it's a man or a woman, can vote. But later on, from 21, it was reduced to 18, so that more and more people could participate in the political affairs. And the young generations have come in, and now the young generations have come in large number. So, it is said that India has the largest democracy in the world. Now, why India has got the largest democracy in the world? Because there are a large number of voters as compared to all the other democratic nations. There is qualitative and quantitative change, and new political parties are emerging with the support of the young voters. The parties represent various expectations of the people and they compete in political sphere. Now, in democracy, there is one more thing which is very important, that is decentralization of power. Imagine if a center has got all the power, what will happen to the leader who is at the center? That person will not be democratic, but he will turn out to be a dictator. So the constitution has made a provision where they say decentralization of power is the central to democratic government. And not only that, it creates opportunity for the participation of the common people. The directive principle of state policy includes the provision of democratic decentralization. One such provision is regarding empowering the local self-government. Now, if we go to the Constitution, the 73rd and the 74th Amendment of the Constitution states that the power should be shared with the local self-governing institution. That was said in the Constitution. And that is how now the central government, they share power with the state as well as the local self-government. Now, right to information. Now, there is a very important question which is asked in board exam. What is RTI? RTI was established in 2005. Citizen is empowered, and it is the essential condition of democracy. It creates opportunity to participate and to interact with the government. Increased communication between citizen and government help to strengthen democracy and building a relationship of trust between the government and the citizen. Now, right to information ensures transparency and accountability, which is one of the hallmark of the good governance. Right to information has made government more transparent and reduced the element of secrecy in the working of the government. Now, my dear students, one such right was RTI. Now, there are several other rights which are given by the government to the citizen. After 2000, the whole approach of the democratic reform has changed. Democratic reforms are considered as a right of citizen. Accordingly, the citizen of India have got right to information, that is in 2005, right to education and food, and right to security. These rights have strengthened democracy in India. Now, my dear students, we will go on with the next subtopic, which says about the social justice and equality. Now, citizen here has to be treated equally, whether the person is rich or poor, whether the person is black or white, whether the person is superior or inferior. You know, the Constitution treats in every individual with dignity. Very simple, with dignity. That is the principle of justice and equality. And it says it is ending discrimination in social status. Okay, in social status, and whether the person is superior or inferior on the basis of caste, religion, language, and gender, place of birth, property, and giving equality of opportunity for the development of every individual. Not only that, if a government makes a policy, they have to include all the sections of the people in the society into a mainstream. Whether the person is a tribal, whether the person is living in a rural village, whether they are in an urban city, the government policies should be such that they should include everyone in the mainstream. And democracy, in fact, is a process of accommodating different sections of the people in society. Democracy helps in reducing social conflict. Now, how democracy helps in reducing social conflict? Now, policy of reservation. Now, as we all know, if you see right from the ancient time, there are people who are kept aside for years. They have been deprived opportunities. They are not given any opportunities related to education or employment for a longer period of time. Accordingly, in educational institutions and government services, some seats are reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. There are also provisions made for the seats for the OBC, other backward class. Now, let me tell you more about it. Now, when I say more about it, when I say the Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe Prevention Atrocities Act. Now, as we all know, that this act was established to bring justice and equality and to prevent any injustice on the people, especially scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Any act of atrocity committed against them is liable for punishment. Now, my dear students, let me share one example with you. There was one program called Satyamay Jayate. In Satyamay Jayate, There was one person who was belonging to a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe. He was called to that program. When he was called to that program, he was literally in tears sharing that though I was a manager in a firm, nobody obeyed me because I belonged to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. I don't want to disclose the name of the company or something, but this manager felt very insulted because he was belonging to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. And the management gave warning to the workers saying that you cannot discriminate people in the name of scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, on the name of religion or a caste. But we have to see the ability. You see? So according to the Prevention of Atrocities Act, you cannot insult people belonging to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, and if you do so, you are liable to be punished. You will be taken to task. Now, there are few provisions for minorities. You know, the Indian Constitution has made several provisions for the protection of minorities, especially related to education and employment. The Indian Constitution prohibits discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, race, language, and region. Thus, the minorities have the protection of such fundamental rights. Now, what are those rights? Rights to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right against cultural and educational rights. Now, that is all in the first part I would like to share. I'll come out with the second part later on. Thank you for your patient hearing.